I want to get on, and it's my pleasure to introduce my colleague, and I think he's my friend, Professor David Roure, distinguished professor from Oxford, with a mix of all sorts of interesting stuff like music, computing, maths, etc. So I'm going to let you... Oh, he's definitely a quintet member. He's a... Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Rachel. Thanks, everyone. So this is a short sort of musical interlude before we go into the next panel. Yep, if the quintet were a quintet, I would be the bass player. I think Jeremy's on keys, maybe Tim's on crypto keys. And on this subject, for years, how long did we say Petra's was around for? 7 or 8 years. When I look at that logo, the bass player in me sees, is that a bass clef? And because of this talk, this is my opportunity to actually drop that onto 5 lines and see, living in the moment with AI is what we're going to be talking about, and see what happens if you put the logo on. And yes, it actually works. The dots line up. And I thought, well, what does that sound like? So also as a way of testing our audio, let's find out the Petra's jingle. It's not too bad, is it? I was a bit worried because I thought, looking at it, I thought it might do this. Who knows what that is?
And it's quilting counting. No, rattle that lock.
Yeah, right. It's the SNCF chime. If you've been on exactly, if you've been on a TGV through France or Eurostar, and was then used by David Gilmour of Pink Floyd fame. To do a piece called Rattle That Lock, which we should now do a piece using this one. And as someone just said, I also thought it might come out like this. But it didn't. Right, so we've heard already about AI and AI winters, and I wanted to just start this talk by saying, actually, we've been doing music and AI for a really long time. It's easy to think that music's just been discovered because the machine learning community have discovered that music is a really great demonstrator of what they're doing, and it is. But we've been doing music and AI and asking these questions about the human and the machine for a long time. I don't know if people are familiar with the Google Ngram viewer. You can look up words, sequences of words, and it searches through the Google Books collection. And in this case, I focused on the period from 1950 to show you the frequency of occurrence of words over time. So we can see, yes, started in the 50s. There was a famous meeting about artificial intelligence in Dartmouth. We have this peak in the 80s. We've already heard about the AI winters. And then there's a sudden rise here. I just want to put this in context by showing you the machine learning Ngram statistics as well. The point is, it's a kind of a separate project. It's actually a separate community. It's been slower to grow. But look what's happened suddenly. It's come right up because of data, because of the compute, because of the algorithms that we're using. And my hypothesis would be that these things have become synonymous. We say machine learning, we say AI, we say ChatGPT. Everyone uses them to refer to the same things. So maybe the machine learning is pulling out the AI. Someone later can, if they want to, consider that one. But I'm going to jump back even further in time, actually to about 1843. So back in the days of Ada Lovelace and Charles Babbage and his analytical engine, hypothetical steam-powered computer, still hasn't been built, way ahead of its time, and architecturally not dissimilar to things we built 100 years later. This is an artist's impression by Sidney Padua. It's quite fun looking at the different parts of this. There's a printer, there are punch cards like the Jacquard loom, and so on. What's important, though, although Lovelace is held up today, importantly, as an icon of women in computing, a STEM icon, interestingly, she actually was a musician, and she had things to say about computers and music. So there are 2 quotes that different research communities use a lot. So the computational creativity community is one of them. And then let's look at this one. So she's talking about the analytical engine. Supposing, for instance, that the fundamental relations of pitch sounds in the science of harmony and music composition were susceptible of such expression and adaptations, the engine might compose elaborate and scientific pieces of music of any degree of complexity or extent. So she was talking about computers generating music. So I think she's not so much STEM as STEAM. We have long discussions about what she meant by scientific pieces of music and things like that. That's another talk. She also had things to say about whether computers can be creative. So she says the analytical engine, 1843 this is, hasn't got any pretensions to originate anything. It can only do what we tell it how to do, and the lovely quote there about algebraical patterns and the Jacquard loom. So that's a really important quote for the community that's worrying about creativity, and derived from this are a set of things called the Lovelace questions, which enable us to sort of assess whether computers are being created. So this goes back a bit. So in 2019, we did some experiments, and we're just about to do this again with you now. Working with mathematician Marcus Soto, my colleague in Oxford, composer Robert Laidlow, who was then at the Royal Northern College of Music, is now in Oxford. Marcus got Rob to create a piece of music. It's about 4 minutes long, and Rob interleaves, section by section, human Bach created, composed pieces, and deep fake AI Bach pieces. We sort of call it Bach or Bot or the Turing test or whatever, but basically there's human and there's AI sections to this composition. And the experiment we did in different occasions was to play this to people and get them to say which bits they thought were human and which they thought were AI. And we're going to try this in a second. So it transitions between human and AI a number of times in the duration of this. So the first outing was at the Barbican in an event called the Eternal Golden Braid. And you can see a camera on the audience there. What we did was get the audience to hold up pieces of cardboard. One side was Bach, that was what was human, and the other side said AI. And by turning it around, the colour changed from yellow to blue, and a camera could measure the human signal and the AI signal. That's what you're seeing there. And we did it at the Royal Northern College of Music in Manchester. In all these cases, we have human performers of the music that Rob put together. And we'll look at this one in a minute. But in the Royal Institution Christmas Lectures in 2019, at the end of lecture 3, there's a performance with an orchestra of this, and you can watch the audience doing it. We'll look at that in a minute, because that's where the right answers are, because they annotated that program with whether it's AI or human. And they use it at the closing credits. So we won't play it all, because it runs out. If ever you're looking for it, you want the last 3 minutes. So here's the experiment. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Slido and how many of you are online. The password is stay connected, very apt. What we're going to do is I'm going to initiate this. If you can connect to this, if you'd like to play this game. In a minute, I will start playing the piece of music. You have a poll. I will initiate the poll, which lets you just vote for human or machine. The reason I've done it this way with this particular function on Slido is so that you can see live what everyone else is voting, and you can see how human and how AI it's sounding, which is a very interesting positive feedback loop. If you were doing a scientific experiment with independent statistical observations, we wouldn't have that feedback loop. But one of the consequences of using this thing on Slido is that Slido, in that mode, requires you to give a name. And the reason it does that is because it wants to do a leaderboard. We're not doing a leaderboard. And I don't really want your names. So when it asks for a name, if you just put in a unique piece of text. If 2 people put in the same, not unique piece of text, then they'll be competing for their votes. So we're not asking for names, just to put something in there which distinguishes you. There's a whole other discussion as to how do you generate a unique identifier in this context. So I'm going to just have a quick look at Slido on my laptop so I'm seeing what you're seeing. I'm going to initiate that first poll. Is anyone seeing anything on their Slido? Yep. Excellent. Right. In that case, I can play the music. Humans winning. 50-50. Humans winning. 51-49. 49-51. Oh, AI's winning. 50-50. Human. Back to AI. Aha, very interesting. If anyone wants the score later, I mean the musical score with the answers on, I'm happy to give it to them. AI. Heading back towards 50-50. Oh no, AI is still in the lead. There's a lot of 49-51 and 48-52. 46-54. 44-56. So I'm in the interest of time, I'm going to pause it there because we are going to repeat. It's very interesting to see what people do with a repeat. Anyway. Thank you. Did you find it easy, hard? Did you make an assumption at the beginning that it starts human or starts AI? This is something we find happens. It actually starts AI, which is very interesting. So here is, for about 1 minute, the TV version with Hannah Fry and the Chineke Orchestra at the Royal Institution and a bunch of attendees with the yellow-blue cards.
In a performance of collaboration, please welcome the Chineke Orchestra. Your job is to guess which parts are human and which were the mathematical algorithm. Enjoy.
So I'll stop that there, but it's quite interesting seeing the people responding to what each other are showing as well. We had a camera on that, and with a simple Python script, you can measure the yellow and the blue signal and get those plots of human versus machine. I suppose the point is it's quite hard to tell, and Rob Laidlow tested those on various music colleagues. If ever you find yourself in a situation with a human performer and someone asking you, is this bit human or is this bit machine? Look at the face of the human performer, okay? That's the clue, because they're familiar with the human, and they concentrate that much more when it's the machine, because the machine didn't really write with them in mind. So I'll wrap up quite quickly, but after doing that work, which was really looking at the composition of music and the role of AI, I'll just move towards performance, and this ties into our last talk and sort of living in the moment. You may have heard this on Radio 3. We did a piece, Rob Lado did a piece called Silicon. This is a New Scientist video about silicon, and it's the first time the BBC Philharmonic have played with AI, so this is about the role of AI in the orchestra. I did a thing a year ago. This is my favourite publication of all the publications academics have to have. We appeared in the the UK Hip Hop magazine. I'm very proud of this. But we have an album. If anyone wants, I can give you the link to the album on Bandcamp. But I was the curator of the future. I was responsible for a track of the future of hip-hop. And we did it not by saying to some disembodied AI, generate a track of future hip-hop. We did it by using 10 different bits of AI in the tool chain of music production, because that's what we do. We simply mocked up where we thought it was going in the next few years. And that's kind of the point. As we've already heard, we're there already. There's a really interesting point about influence and speaking machine, because are we speaking music? Musical genres have always reflected the infrastructure at the time, if you think about it. And now they're reflecting AI infrastructure as well. And our musical taste is being influenced by the recommender algorithms, which are giving us things to listen to. So we're kind of already living in the machine. So to close, I want to introduce this guy, George Lewis. He's a composer and trombone player based now in New York. He has a piece of software called Voyager. Here you have 5 instrumentalists and a piano. The piano is being played by his software. It functions as a member of this improvising ensemble. It's listening to what they're doing, it's responding, it's doing things and they're responding. And the point is that if I read the description of this software, you'd think this was written today. This was 1986, okay? There's a program notes from a conference a performance in Chicago in '89. You can see Voyager, first part, 86, 87. We did a performance in Manchester with an augmented Voyager. I wrote some additional code for it so it could listen more to what the humans were doing, not just the notes, but the slide of the trombone, the multiphonics on a saxophone, the tongue fluttering. And so you build a vocabulary to hand things over around the improvising ensemble. That's absolutely living in the moment with the AI. And George and I would absolutely say this is important. A lot of AI researchers are not thinking about the human, the creative human, in the moment with the AI. But that's the world we're designing. It's the world I would say we're already in. And that's my backdrop for today's discussion. A provocation, George has recently said, it has come to pass not only that improvisations by creative musical machines are often indistinguishable from those created by humans, but also they need not be so distinguished. So early on, we were really careful to track which bits of those compositions were human, which bits were machine, how the machine bits were done, how could we reproduce that, explainable AI. There's just so much AI, and so many tools we're using that may or may not have AI in them, that we're not making the distinction, and that's George's point. Whether or not you agree is something very interesting to discuss, but I note that, for example, in universities at the moment, we're saying to students, oh yes, you can use ChatGPT, but you have to say exactly how you use it. You have to record that in your essay, right? But you don't record your usage of grammar checker, spelling checkers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Google, right? So I think we're already there. We're connected. I'll be protected. I'll stop there. Thank you very much.